The 17th edition of the India Game Developer Conference took place between November 5th to 7th at Chennai, which hosted the event for the first time. It is the third city to be a host for the conference, the previous two being Hyderabad and Pune. While Hyderabad was the host for several years, various factors behind the scenes led to this sudden change in venue, and the team led by the Game Developer Association of India, or JEDI, managed to pull off yet another well organized event, with only one nagging issue, which I'll talk about later. Similar to last year, I went around the event with my low res phone camera and filmed a bunch of stuff. I can promise that if I film such a video again, I will use a better camera. You'll have to excuse me just this once. The video is split into different sections covering the major parts of the conference, so feel free to skip to the one that you're most interested in. Like always, this year featured a variety of talks and workshops presented by some incredible speakers from the industry. Taking place in 6 huge halls, 7 if you count the IP Connect venue, these talks offered an amazing opportunity for developers of all ages and experience levels to interact directly with people who've been there and done that. Let me now go over some of the ones I'd like to highlight. Prateek from Destroyer Doggo gave a talk on making money from building cozy games. By releasing 2 cozy games across 2 years, Prateek's experience proves that you can make a living by making smaller games which provide a comforting gameplay experience. I'm also fortunate to be a playtester for Destroyer Doggo's games, including their upcoming title, Baobao's Cozy Cleaning Services, which is sure to make the fans of the studio very happy. Sam and Kostya from Spoonful of Wonder provided a post-mortem of their wonderful narrative game Copycat. This talk contained a lot of useful tips on promoting an indie game on a tiny marketing budget. Copycat launched with 1.4 lakh wishlists and has sold over 1 lakh copies till date, so aspiring developers should certainly pay close attention to what they have to say. The highlight for me personally was this tier list, which showcases the effectiveness of various marketing tools that the team used. Of course, it is reflective of their own results, but it gives a general idea of the effectiveness of some commonly used marketing tools. Rohan from Matverse Music Group gave a talk that he himself admitted caters to a niche audience: music licensing for video games. First-time developers might not be ready to license music right away, but developers who are a bit more experienced might be interested to explore this idea for their future games. Justin, a freelance artist who has worked with many AAA game studios, shared his experience in creating key art, not just for games but also for movies. It was quite interesting to see the thought process that goes into creating the key art that we see on the covers of discs and on posters everywhere. I also attended a panel discussion featuring various indie developers from studios of all sizes, who each shared their inspiring stories of how they overcame many challenges to bring their games to life. Apart from this, I attended a bunch of other sessions as well, including a workshop where we were split into teams and asked to design a game on paper, a talk about generative AI art, which I guess was received differently by different people, and an interesting talk about creating your art portfolio, which was actually one of the busiest talks I attended, with people still spilling in through the door several minutes after it started. If you'd like to see these and other talks in high definition, keep an eye out on the official India GDC YouTube channel, where they usually get uploaded anywhere between a few days and a few weeks after the conference. The Expo probably drew in the most number of people at the conference. This was an exhibition featuring dozens of companies, both small and large, showcasing their games and services. This was also where you could truly get a sense of how large the venue was, because the expo hall was one massive open space. It took me 2 minutes to walk from one end of the hall to the other. And of course, it took me the entire 3 days to properly explore everything that each of the companies were showcasing. Given the size of the venue, the crowd seemed a lot more spread out compared to what now feels like a relatively smaller expo hall at Hyderabad. And there was a lot more breathing room, which I appreciated very much. Now it's time to talk about the nagging issue I mentioned at the start of the video. Unfortunately, the expo hall had poor internet coverage. Mobile reception inside the hall wasn't great, and there was quite a bit of confusion about free Wi Fi. Without proper internet access, it was difficult for everyone to scan QR codes, add each other on Discord, or open Steam to wishlist games, and so on. Since this was the first time the event was being hosted at this venue, and because it kind of came together at the last minute, the organizers probably had no time to make necessary arrangements to fix this issue. If the conference is held here again next year, I hope this issue is resolved, as it was the one disappointing part of an otherwise enjoyable experience. Moving on, I spent most of my time playing various games on the show floor. They came in all shapes and sizes, with some of them being very early prototypes, while others are gearing up for launch very soon. Unsurprisingly, I saw multiple games following the now standard formula of making a game based on Indian mythology using Unreal Engine. We are yet to see any of these projects have a full launch, so it's still too early to guess what kind of reception they will have. But at this point, they are all kind of blending into each other, and it's a bit hard to keep track of these projects. I do wish them luck and hope that they take their time to make enjoyable games and not just impressive visual showcases. There were a few other interesting things happening on the expo floor as well. For instance, legendary composer A.R. Rahman's directorial debut film Le Musk was featured in a VR booth. A.R. Rahman himself attended the event on day 3, but I was away attending a talk at the time. Also on day 3, the organizers gave away 4 PS5s with a live giveaway, which got people excited and disappointed at the same time. Throughout the event, many booths gave away swag, but similar to last year, the Epic Games booth was arguably the most popular one, mostly because they had little to no restrictions with their giveaways. On day 3, they began emptying their stock, so everyone lined up to get their gift bags. And yes, I filmed this while standing in line myself. The Indie Showcase was part of the expo, but it's also unique enough to have its own section in the video. It featured a selection of indie games from across the country, again in different shapes and sizes. While previous indie showcases almost exclusively featured upcoming PC console games, this year also included a mixture of recently released games as well as mobile games, thus catering to a larger audience than before. I was happy to see that the indie showcase area took full advantage of the venue's size and featured a design that was quite spread out, allowing players to explore the booths freely. For reference, this was how last year's indie showcase area looked like, with hardly any space between the booths for players to line up. As mentioned before, the internet issues impacted the developers quite a bit, as they couldn't ask players to wishlist their games or ask them to vote for the Indie Spotlight Award, but somehow they managed. I played most of the games featured in the showcase, and in alphabetical order, here are some of the ones I found interesting. The IGDC Awards, renamed this year as the India Game Awards, were given out at the end of day 2. This is one of the few award shows dedicated to recognizing games developed by Indian studios, and I've personally seen some developers benefit directly after receiving these awards. So they are definitely important in helping studios get some extra visibility in the industry. Unlike previous editions, this time the award show took place indoors. Similar to previous editions, the event was not live streamed, so the audience was limited to the relatively small number of people who chose to stay back until 6 pm on that day. Now, instead of subjecting you to more of my poorly filmed footage, here's a quick reel showcasing the winners in various categories. Congratulations to all of them. Just like every year, IP Connect had its own dedicated space for investors and publishers to set up meetings with various developers across the country. And once again, I can't report much on what happened over there behind closed doors. I'm bringing it up to highlight it as an essential part of the event. Setting up meetings with investors and publishers has become relatively easy these days through the internet, but setting up multiple face-to-face meetings in the span of 3 days isn't easy. The IP Connect part of the conference makes it seem easy, where you just need to fill out a form a few days earlier and your calendar gets filled up with potentially life-changing meetings. Even if you don't have a booth at the event or don't have a pitch deck to present at IP Connect, you can still spread the word about your game at IGDC through the magic of networking. A lot of people, including myself, are not fans of that word, but these conferences are one of the few places where you can randomly bump into another person, just say hi, and start talking about your game. It would be silly not to make use of that opportunity. Apart from the main venue, there were quite a few networking events set up at mixers throughout the city. I attended one of these and ended up discovering quite a few interesting games over there. For instance, I met a developer from Redfinch Games who recently released a mobile title called Scary Tower, which is a puzzle game about clearing blocks of ice. I had an interesting conversation with the developer, and later when I downloaded the game, I found it to be quite engaging. I probably wouldn't have discovered this title if I had not attended the mixer. So yes, I will grudgingly admit that networking does have its benefits. Once again, all of us walked away from the conference feeling a bit optimistic, happy to note that the quality of games being showcased has been gradually going up every year. Those of us hoping to build our own games met a lot of inspiring people who taught us valuable lessons, and some of us might return next year with something to showcase of our own. Until then, that's a wrap on another IGDC. Thank you to the organizers for putting this together, and thank you for watching.